Today we're here with the production coordinator at one of Hollywood's top talent agencies. She's not only a filmmaker, but she's a friend who's here to discuss paths forward for the independent filmmaker in the completion of my film, Zero Sum Game. Here we go.
Hey,
Hello, how are you?
good. We have our musical instruments up.
Yeah, I am a big, I've been writing songs since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I was so excited when I first moved here to Nashville because a few months after I moved here, I started like playing out in all the bars and stuff at the open mic nights and everything. And that was a lot of fun.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah,
That's like a dream come true. That's what
It
people
was-
move to Nashville for.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I haven't done it in 2 years. What about you?
Oh,
I see
cool.
your piano.
Yeah. I think it's true that when you're young, you're just kind of all different types of artists.
Mhm.
I really wanted to be a musician and an actress, and that was like my path. And then I ended up going to ETW at NYU, which is the experimental wing, and they've really
Okay, wait,
focused.
hold on one second. We're getting all the good information here.
I kind of thought we were starting.
I know.
I can't wait.
Let me start this over again.
Yeah, no, fair. But I'm glad because I actually just
yeah.
took a Zen out too.
Yeah, because that was good stuff. That was good stuff. So we are here with Frankie MacLaughlin. She is a filmmaker, a friend, and we both work at the same talent agency where she is the physical production coordinator.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for having me.
So Frankie's here not just to answer a few questions, but hopefully help shape where this channel might go and help shape what the future of finishing my film Zero Sum Game might look like, and kind of really a reality check of not only what's likely, what's possible, but what is, kind of far-fetched in this industry and in this climate today. But first of all, we want to hear a little bit about Frankie. Well, so tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you to this point in your career being the physical production coordinator.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I started off in theater in high school. If we're going to take it all the way back, so I started doing.
Same, I did too.
I started doing theater in high school. I feel like that's how everyone gets started. I think the easiest thing that everyone thinks they want to be is an actor, and that's absolutely where I was at. I played the piano growing up. There's my beautiful pink piano.
Here are my guitars.
Yeah, we have that in common too, Paul. But yeah, so I ended up going to NYU in the experimental theater wing for acting. And one of the big things we call it ETW. It was such a special program. And anyone watching out there who isn't 18 yet, definitely check this program out. It is very special. A lot of what you focus on at ETW is kind of figuring out what kind of artist you actually are. So, we did have classic scene study and all of that, but it wasn't like Stella Adler or Meisner where like the whole goal was to come out of this as an actor. We spent a lot of time writing and directing our own scripts that we would also act in. We spent a lot of time like being put in random rooms with instruments and writing songs and making music. And that's kind of the initial point when I realized that I actually didn't want to be an actress at all. I actually had terrible stage fright. And not going in, by the time I got to the end of the program was when I was like, I don't enjoy this at all. I really enjoy like the writing and the directing and especially the producing part of it, like organizing and getting everyone in the same room. Was my jam, like running the numbers, figuring out how we were going to come up with that last $75 because at the time I was just making plays. I only needed $150. And it was great. So when I graduated, that's kind of what I did. I just made as many plays as I could and worked at a pizza place. And this is such a classic story that I think everyone can relate to. And it absolutely is the thing to do. That's how I found my people and the people that I constantly reach out to make stuff now and find solutions. And they refer me to other people to keep expanding my network. And that's just kind of exactly the path. When the pandemic hit, I was 25 and I had made a couple musicals, a couple plays. And I feel like I was lucky in this moment to kind of have this epiphany that is feels so obvious to me now, but at the time I was like, well, I can't make plays because no one can come see them. What can I make that I can share with people? And it was like, duh, make a film. So that's kind of like, I didn't grow up with a camcorder in my hands or like watching all the like old films and pulling references and knowing every director by name. I was very much the opposite, where my film education absolutely started at 25. Like I had no idea what I was doing, but I did know how to get people in a room together that were passionate about the same goal. And at the end of the day, that really is what film is. And I feel like from the physical production, like agency side of things, you see that a lot where you see like an amazing costume designer get fired from a show and you're like, how, why? I can't imagine their work was bad. And it sometimes it really is just like that just wasn't the right person for this group of people. Like they're
Yeah.
you know what it's like. I mean, everyone's been on set with someone where you're like, you just are causing problems or you don't get the vision or we're not aligned on this thing. And
And I feel like that's like across the board with just about any artistic endeavor. Because I
it's true.
remember like watching that documentary Monster about Metallica, and they were talking about how some bassists were just excellent, like just these awesome bassists, but they weren't the right fit. They just didn't
Yeah.
seem like they were part of the band. And that's what we're all looking for. We're all looking to work with people that feel like they're part of our band.
Yeah, it's true. Exactly. And you spend so much time with these people. It's one thing to have an email job and maybe not get along with someone and okay, well, we just have to make it work. You're touring on the road with these people. You're like in the ditches at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to get that
Yeah.
last shot. Like you need the people around you to want to be there, to be excited for you, to have common
Yeah.
goals. It it's the only time it ever works, is what I found.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, otherwise
Absolutely.
it's not fun.
But I think
Otherwise, I'll take the email job.
I think that's awesome that you came to it later because I don't think there's any one correct path to coming to filmmaking. It's like it is an art form. Just I mean, how many people that do you know that are actors or filmmakers or writers and they also play guitar or they also play piano, they also draw. James
Yeah,
Cameron is a famous, amazing artist. Sylvester Stallone's a
yeah,
painter, so the whole artistic thing kind of goes together, I think.
it really does. And someone once gave me a piece of advice that was like, find your artistic thing that isn't you're not trying to make money, you don't have extreme goals around, so that it can be your outlet. Because as a creative person, it can be really stressful to put all your like time and passion into a film, kind of like the situation you're in, Paul, where it's like I have dedicated everything to this and I still need that last bit of money to get it done or have this last problem I have to solve and it's not done yet. It's really nice to have creative passions where there's no expectations around it. And
Yeah, and
that for
not
me was like when I quit being a musician, it was more like I just need this for me. Like
yeah.
I don't need this the stress of scheduling shows or trying to get my voice out there or whatever. Like I just need to come home after a long day and like play the piano.
Yeah, yeah. And I also think like, if you're going to do anything sustainably, you have to get something from the process itself.
That's true.
I mean, it's been a long, hard haul trying to get this movie done, but
Yeah.
man, like I have had the best time making this film, writing it, just everything about it has been a labor of love, to do. So I mean, I can't imagine if I was somehow doing this for the money or the glory, I would have quit after the first week, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, I had another person give me a piece of advice that I didn't understand at the time because and actually this was at ETW. I was 19 years old. Like It's easy. Like I got into NYU. The rest is figured out for me. And the first thing they said when we walked through the door was, if you're here to be rich and famous, like quit now. And I didn't get it. I didn't understand. I was like, yeah, aren't we all here for that? I look back on that now and boy, does it make perfect sense to me because it's true. This is super hard to do. Being a filmmaker is just as hard, and don't hate me for saying this, just as hard as being a doctor, as being a lawyer. And the reason, yes, those professions are like much more dignified, some could say. But the reason it's just as hard is because you have to dedicate yourself as much as you would in law school or med school or any of those, the residencies, all that sort of stuff. It is the same thing with film. I mean, you have to keep showing up every single day and choose to believe in yourself and be passionate enough about the thing you're doing to choose to keep doing it because there are lots of problems. I'm producing a film right now where we were this close to the picture lock. Like the editor was like moving one last thing around, and the whole hard drive gave out, and
Oh my
just
God.
heart wrenching, horrible. So my
No
other advice to all
backup?
filmmakers, of course, there's backup. At least the footage is backed up on a second, and I believe that the like rough cut was backed up on a second hard drive, but not which the work she was doing between rough cut and we're about to lock the picture.
Oh my
Gone,
God. Oh
gone.
my God.
Yeah. So always back your work up, everyone. Like,
Your
seriously.
whatever you're using, DaVinci or Premiere Pro or whatever it is, keep that file on a cloud drive. Just keep
Yeah.
that file because the file is
Yeah.
so small. It's not even a megabyte, I don't think.
Hmm.
Just keep it on a cloud drive.
Yeah.
I had that happen with one of my early films when I had created this awesome system that had 16 gigabytes of memory on it. And I couldn't afford to like make a duplicate of that, but it crashed and I lost
Oh,
everything.
it's
Yeah.
the worst. It's the worst. And like when you're just getting, it won't happen when you're just getting started. Like
Yeah.
other mistakes and things will happen, but like maybe you'll be lucky enough to get through the clear on like your hard drive not giving out on
Yeah.
you or your footage all transferring over just fine. Um, but boy, the day that that happens, you're like, this is what everyone warned me about.
Yeah.
This is the thing that I thought would never happen to me.
Yeah.
Um, and it's, I mean, our editor is in such good spirits. She's like, I think I must just be in denial, like, and I have all this work to redo. Um, the film too is having like some struggles in the edit process, just in terms of like, I think another thing that first time filmmakers specifically really struggle with is like the way that they think it's going to go versus the way it all goes. And
Yeah.
then once they have the footage, like now we have to piece it together. So it's definitely been that whole struggle of trying to get the vision back from the reality that we're working in. So maybe there's a blessing in disguise here too with this
Yeah.
whole hard drive situation that sometimes you're like a little too beaten down as a first time director that you do start doing the thing a seasoned director would do, which is make decisions and move on.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It could be a bright side, good learning lesson for everyone
Yeah.
involved.
And
Maybe
you're
I'm
real
in denial too.
you realize pretty early on in making films in general that, that what you're gonna get isn't what you thought. The
Oh,
end
yeah.
product is not gonna be what you imagined to
Hmm.
begin with. But lucky for me, I'm an editor, so I love that part. I love
Yeah.
discovering that footage again and figuring out what is actually there.
That's super cool. I wish I was an editor because I think it would make the process 10 times more fun if I was able to actually technically translate the directing vision that I'm having.
Yeah.
Um, Having to use my words, I guess, is like a second best option.
Well, you're a good talker.
Yeah, thanks.
So let's get into this because from
Yeah.
from my perspective of doing this, you're the first guest, and I wanted to talk to you first. Because we've talked a lot about filmmaking at work, over the years.
Hmm.
And I'm looking to kind of do two things. I'm not only looking to finish this film, but I'm wondering what that paradigm shift will be. If, usually we get a movie and then the bonus content is the behind the scenes and you get that as a plus. Well, what
Sure.
happens if the bonus content is what you're giving people, is the product, and the movie itself is just the bonus content?
Yeah.
So it's documenting this journey, and I wanted to get your take on all of this that I'm doing. Um,
Sure. Yeah.
so
I think it's a great idea personally, but
yeah, and it's not like other people haven't kind of done something like this, but what I see online a lot is they're not jumping in with both feet to that paradigm, because I
yeah,
think deep in the back of their heads everybody wants to be that rich and famous director, but I've worked inside of this agency long enough that I see that even seasoned directors want a different paradigm, and they're looking for
yeah.
different avenues. I'll tell you, I'll do a quick story aside really quickly. I must have been working at the agency maybe 1 or 2 years. I met this director and he was selling a book at a book fair. He was selling his biography, his
Oh,
autobiography. And so
cool.
I pick it up, I start chatting with him. This guy directed, he's an amazing freaking director. And I looked at his IMDb, and in the 80s and 90s, this guy worked with some of the top actors, worked in television on the top shows. And I was looking so forward to picking his brain. I sheepishly asked him out to lunch.
Oh,
And
good.
yeah, and he said, yeah, absolutely, sure.
Because they always say yes.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
So, but the thing is, I'm looking to get information from him. Like you had this amazing career. How might I have an amazing career too? We're having lunch, and I suddenly start to get the feeling, oh, he's looking for an inside to the agency from me, because
Hmm.
he despite his huge pedigree, he is now outside of that system and looking for a way back in, and that just blew
Hmm.
my mind. And
It's true.
yeah, and I was like,
Yeah.
wow, there's got to be different avenues for all of this, because if a guy, and I watched like 3 or 4 of his films, if a guy that freaking talented and successful can be on the outside, anybody can be on the outside.
We all are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have these moments of being inside. And I really think reframing anyone's relationship to the industry in that way tampers expectations, to be honest, because
Yeah.
I think there was an interview with Mindy Kaling, and I can't remember who was interviewing her, but they asked her the moment she realized she had made it. And she said, oh, I haven't made it yet. Like, have I? Will someone tell me? And I think part of that is it's like, yes, you might achieve a goal that you have, and you're supposed to continue to move your goalpost, right? And get bigger and better. Um, on the other hand, I also think, I mean, I think about this all the time. Like, how amazing it must feel to win an Oscar, but then like 3 weeks later, no one's talking about your movie anymore. Like
Yeah.
they really aren't. And that it's so funny when I was making plays and I was trying to figure out because of 2020, like, oh, no one's going to come see the play. The other thought was like, I don't really, with plays, you close the house and that's it. No one will ever see the play again unless you go put it up again somewhere else. But like it's over. That version of it is over. And with film, it lives forever. But it still kind of exists in that capacity with film. Yes, there are those films that everyone talks about for decades and decades, the classics. I'll show my kids Titanic one day, I'm sure. But
Mhm.
even that moment for James Cameron with Titanic, like he can't go back and relive it. He can just
Yeah.
remember that it existed.
Yeah,
So it really does go back even further into that we're not here to be rich and famous. We're here because we're passionate about making art. And you have to be
absolutely.
passionate about making art.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had to come to the realization because I did several things, um, but I've made films just consistently all my life, and even when I was doing other career moves, any chance to pick up that freaking camera and make a little film, I would do it, and I kind of had to finally admit to myself, you know what, that's kind of who you are.
Yeah.
There's no escaping it.
Expensive hobby.
Yeah, yeah. So let's try. I'll try to. I'm loving talking to you, but I'll try to keep this on the rails.
Okay, I will
So,
too.
and we kind of talked about this, but what do you see as some of the actual pathways that people make a living as a filmmaker? I mean, not just what we think of when we think, oh, Paramount hired me to make a movie, uh, Screen Gems hired me to make a movie. What are some of the pathways that you're seeing filmmakers use to actually make a living?
Yeah, I mean, and I guess it depends like what kind of filmmakers we're talking about, especially coming from physical production. I feel like my brain is so much more ingrained in the like head of department area these days and what it takes for them to kind of climb the ladder.
Hmm.
But on the filmmaking, being a filmmaker side of things, I do think, and I know we're going to kind of get to this later as well, but I have seen recently some success stories where they really did come out of YouTube or TikTok, but they had what it took. They weren't just like a TikTok influencer. They had that like creative filmmaking in them, but they're using these platforms to make people aware of themselves. And I hate to give you the answer that like social media is the answer, because it's not a path that I've chosen to take. And it's something me and my producing partner talk about all the time. We're like, we really should just be making short form content. But that's a specific type of talent as well. But the success stories I'm definitely seeing are people who, made comedy YouTube channels and now everyone's watching their YouTube show. And what do you mean Blumhouse is calling to produce their first feature? Like that's how it's happening, which is funny because it's a comedy channel and they sold a horror script, but that's the point. Is it's not it's these days the filmmaker is also the brand. And so you really do have to like figure out what your brand is and find your own audience early on because the audience is the thing that the investors are after, right? So figuring out early on how to connect to your audience in any way you can. I think it would be really easy right now to say verticals. If you're a young filmmaker, get into verticals. My concern and fear around verticals is they aren't very artistic in any way. They're a great way to practice, great way to like understand how it gets done, like making decisions all day long. Like you don't have time to think. They shoot like 12 pages in 6 hours. Like it's like the
Oh my
craziest environment.
God.
Yeah, right. But for for me, when I was 24, I started working at this YouTube company. They're called Pocket Watch, and I loved Pocket Watch. Shout out Pocket Watch. You gave me everything I know as a filmmaker now. Um, but what we did at the time was I got to just like take a GoPro out and we would make these YouTube videos and we would go ride roller coasters and all this fun stuff. And it was all for kids. 4 years later, it was, climbed the whole ladder, was senior producer on my own show there. And I just found myself being like, there is no way for me to get out of this world. Like I can have anything I want in this world, but what I really wanted was outside of this world, and this world isn't getting me the jobs in this world. And that's my fear personally with verticals is I'm seeing a lot of like young talent who is becoming very gifted at making vertical content. But you know, I marry my Hollywood stripper CEO's daughter. Is it maybe going to lead you to like make a Nora. So I think that's also maybe my advice to filmmakers is staying true to the type of art form that you are trying to make. And it's not the greatest answer, but you have to just persevere and be in those spaces and around those people who are making those things.
And I think too, uh, I mean, I was going to ask you about this a little later, but we kind of opened that can of worms. I remember there's this one musician that I follow. She's a singer-songwriter that I follow on YouTube, and she took you through the math of making money off of things like Spotify and just any streaming music channel. And
Crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and how little money she made for all of the streams that she had. But she put out, I think it was a cassette and an album, and she
Oh,
sold like, I don't know, a few thousand copies, but she said I made more just selling those few thousand copies than I did with all of the streaming on all those platforms.
yeah.
So as that interested me as a filmmaker because it was like, oh, wait a minute, like we can fracture that audience now. I have direct access to an audience, and if we fracture it, then okay, I might not be a director being hired at 1 million or 2 million a film, but it can definitely put food on the table and a roof over my head if I play it
Sure.
right.
Yeah. I feel like that's something else that I talk a lot with my producing partner is okay, we finished the film, now what? And uh, distribution is something that we never really completely talk about. And distribution is as simple as don't don't hold on to your film behind a Vimeo password protected link. Like put it on YouTube, like put it on social media, get it out there. And I mean, there's so many great features that I've seen at film festivals that don't have distribution that now you can
Yeah.
just, buy on Amazon for $10. And we do buy them. Now, if that director who didn't have distribution but had 20,000 followers on Instagram, like their opportunity to distribute and make some of their money back is obviously going to be higher. So it feels like we have this amazing tool to connect with audiences, and like the more of that you can do, the more of that you can do early on, um can really make that difference. I We also see it with, I mean, not that we're talking about actors here right now, we're talking about filmmaking, but these days it's like you can't even get an audition unless you have X amount of followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
And it's too bad. I mean, there's some really amazing talent out there, and there's also some shit talent with a bunch of followers. So, like, that's really too bad. But the whole bottom line is we all focus on like the art and the creative and getting the lighting just right and the costumes just right and like what is truly the art. And we never really think about like what is our plan to market and distribute. And
Almost no
yeah, almost
directors,
not,
writers
yeah.
think about that stuff.
Yeah.
And it I mean, like I said before, after seeing how things work inside the agency, it's like, oh, you really have to be thinking about that if you're going to make a living at it and you're
Yeah.
not just going to be, making your own artistic films. You have to know what audience you're talking to. So do
And
you
it
think
it's so easy to say and so much harder to actually like
it is
nail
because
down.
it is a different mindset. It is an entirely, you're now talking about somebody who's a marketer, not a filmmaker.
Right.
So you're talking, okay, I've studied my entire life to be an artist. How do I now wrap my brain around economics?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there are so many films too that we cover in physical production where it's like they have the money if they can get this person. So
Mm.
we just watch their schedules like push and push. Like, oh no, we're still casting. Oh, we're casted, but we lost financing. Oh, we got financing, but we don't have our cast now. Like all over the place. And you can see really why that is if you boil it all back down to marketing and distribution. Like, investors aren't going to spend $5 million on a film for your little brother to be in it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Like, they just aren't.
So do you think, I mean, with all of the avenues available today, is getting an agent and a manager still the gold standard? Is that what you're trying to do in your career? Is that what one is trying to do in their career?
I mean, I'm certainly biased because I work at a talent agency that I can absolutely see the benefits of having an agent and a manager. But what I do find really interesting is that by the time you get to a level where an agent and a manager would be helpful, you probably wouldn't need them to get the jobs that want you. Which is like ironic to say because it's very catch 22. I think for me personally, I was very misled. I Me and my producing partner, we got a literary agent in 2022. And that day, I'll never forget that day. I've thought I hung up the Zoom call, the phone. My life is going to change forever. I've made it in Hollywood. Like I can sit back, relax, just focus on the writing. Nothing happened. From 2022 till now, nothing has happened. I don't even hear from that agent. Like he still represents us because I think it's better to have one than not. But yeah, I from my own point of view, I can understand why I don't hear from that agent or manager. I'll be very so honest. I mean, I'm not the most pitchable at this point. Like, I don't have any writer's room experience. I have a couple short films that I've made. I've made a bunch of plays, you know. So from that point of view, I can see why a lit agent would be like, yeah, we're not gonna send you on this thing or whatever it might be. On the other hand, it also felt like, well, isn't he shopping our scripts around, la la la? But something I've come to realize too is even if he is, which I don't think he is, but even if he is, the amount of inboxes our project has probably landed in that just got deleted because they're like, well, we don't know who those people are. They've never made anything. They have no track record. So there's, to me, a very big catch 22 that there really isn't a point in spending time or energy trying to get an agent or a manager until you yourself are pitchable. Um, Now, what does pitchable mean? I think pitchable means that you have a lot of strong contacts around town in what town in Hollywood, I guess, but just in the actual like niche department you're trying to make things in. Like if you're trying to produce comedy series, like you're going to want to know who the big players are in comedy, try to meet those people, try to meet their assistants, um, try to get in those rooms and environments and like have a track record. That's going to go way farther for you and get you the jobs that you want to get you to that place than just like getting an agent and like hoping he figures it out for you. I mean, it's getting an agent is like having a group project and being like, and if you just go, okay, you do all the work, the project's not going to get done. Like it won't. Uh, if anything, an agent and manager, like great tool. Everyone, I definitely recommend it. But I also just think like if you're young, if you're just getting started, that shouldn't be the goal. The goal should be to figure out like exactly who you are, what you want to achieve, and to create as big a circle as you can in that specific niche.
And
Because then
here's
the
something,
agents and managers are going to come to you. Like,
and the thing I think is people don't often wrap their minds around is just that agents aren't super people that can just,
no.
pluck you out of non-existence and just make stars out of you.
Hmm.
But they
And that's the
also
rumor.
right.
That's the rumor.
And but they're also just regular people trying to make a living. And when they send a client out on that call or something, that client is also kind of representing the agent's reputation.
Yes,
So the producer, the director, whoever the agent is sending that client to, the agent wants to make sure that that producer is wowed by the person that you're sending them. So
exactly. Or that producer's not calling them again because they're like, you
right.
You keep
Right.
sending me as someone who's directed one short film. Like, I
Right.
can't put this in front of Universal.
Right,
Like,
exactly. So yeah, and I don't think everybody thinks, well, I made a great short film. I made a great one short film. Of course you're going to want to send me out, and I'm going to be this big thing in Hollywood. And it's just these are
mm-mm.
people trying to make a living. These are people who have reputations. These are people who, have to put food on their tables too. So
Yeah, yeah, it's true. There are definitely amazing agents and managers out there that will take like a younger, hungry person. But I think it's super important when you are that young and hungry person to understand the expectation there that like maybe they're giving you some notes on your script and they have a perspective that you don't have because they are dealing in the business, the commercial, the like in investor side of things. So they do know like what's selling and stuff. That in itself is like huge. Lots of help that they're giving you. Um, so if you're lucky enough to be someone who's like young and doesn't have like the longest calling card of credits and contacts, just to be able to talk to someone who's seasoned in that way is certainly valuable. On the other hand, there are also like very young agents and managers who are also maybe just getting started, who are like looking to grow and learn with you. And like those can be great people to find. Actually, biased again, but my best advice if you're young is figure out who the coordinators are and reach out to them. Because it's more likely than not, the coordinators are also starting to build their list and their network. And, you know, we're, like I said earlier, lawyers, doctors, they're not special. Everyone's working really hard.
Well, the thing is too, with a lawyer and doctor, you're kind of guaranteed an outcome. Like if
That's the
you
thing.
dedicate yourself,
Yeah,
you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a
it's
lawyer.
true. It's true. I think that is maybe the worst part of being a filmmaker is you're just like, well, I really, really hope. But I do think and I can nearly say I know, but I think um that if you're dedicating as much of your life to filmmaking as a doctor is to becoming a doctor, chances are you will find a level of fulfillment that has made it all worth it. Um, so I do encourage you to keep trying. There is this quote that I read. It's called it's from this book, The Defining Decade. And someone gave it to me right when I graduated college, which was actually a while ago now. In the book, it said that you're not an expert at anything until you've put 40 hours a week for 10 years. It amounts to like 40,000 hours. So if you think about like, okay, I'm a filmmaker, but I'm working this job at a talent agency. As a filmmaker, I'm probably putting in like 5 good hours a week. Like there's a lot of time to like grow and become an expert at this. And by the time I hit that area, maybe I will be making some good money doing it. Like who's to say for certain? I've also found personally that finding something that's tangent to your goals, like working at the agency, finding, if you were to go get a job at like a trailer house or, work in marketing, actually like work on another area of the business that it would be valuable for you to know and understand how it works. When I worked at Pocket Watch, as much as I loved it, I actually felt very creatively drained because I was like doing the filmmaking part, but I wasn't getting to make the things that I wanted to make. There was always like some SEO or parameter that I had to hit. And it was so fun. I look back on that job and I'm like, that was so fun. And there were so many days where I took it for granted or, didn't appreciate it for what it was. There was also days where I just loved it. And I can see how deeply it kind of influenced the artist that I was. So I kind of lost track of what I was saying, but I think you get the point.
Also kind of to that effect when you're loving something that you're doing, there's this phrase that I think kind of makes sense. If you shoot for the moon, you'll end up among the stars.
Hmm.
Don't forget that I mean, if I've told actors this many times, if you're going to Hollywood to think you're going to become a rich and famous star, no, the chances of that happening are so infinitesimal, right? But if you love acting, if that's who you are, and you can find a lot of ways to do that that aren't Hollywood, that aren't trying to be a star. Like you can
So
be happy for
so
the rest
true.
of your life if you stick to what makes you happy and not rich and famous star.
Yeah. But it has to genuinely make you happy too.
Right,
I mean, there are
right.
so many great paths for actors that don't end up being Emma Stone. And there are,
Mm.
I mean, even for me, to be honest, wanting to be a filmmaker, but ending up in the physical production department at this agency has brought me so much joy because one of the things that I love the most about being on set is working with the crew. And so somehow I found myself in a place where I'm working with the crew every day. It's not as sexy or as glamorous as I thought it would be. And I also it's definitely not as sexy or as glamorous as my parents thought it would be either. Like they don't even get it. But I mean, as long as you can be like proud of the work you're doing every day, like you're in Hollywood. The way that I look at it, I'm meeting new people every single day and talking to people every single day that very well could be the reason my film gets made or I'm winning an Oscar one day or whatever it might be. But setting yourself up in positions where you can meet as many people as possible that are doing the thing that you want to be doing or giving the green light to the thing that you want to be doing is probably the best choice you can make. Whether that's the sitting in the marketing department or learning more about film distribution through a big company or animation, like storytelling, all those sorts of things, writers' rooms. Um, there's not just one person involved in anything. And it usually is like that one person will get celebrated a lot in the awards shows and stuff. So we think it's
Mm.
one person, but like that's never the case. There's at least 500 people involved, probably even in the SG.
Yeah,
There's probably
yeah.
500 people involved. like,
Not quite that many, but there are a lot of people involved. So do you think it's still when somebody makes their first feature, when they make that calling card film, do you still think that can open doors, a lot of doors in getting an agent and manager?
I think anything is possible. I have seen similar to what I was telling you about these guys, they have this YouTube channel and I can't say who. I'd love to say who, but I can't. And the reason I can't is because it's my ex-boyfriend's best friend and it ended so horribly. And I was so when the relationship ended, these guys were nobodies, these YouTubers. So I didn't think anything of it. And then I just start seeing their names all over the trades. Like, I want to reach out to them. I want to get coffee. And now I fucking can't because it's my ex boyfriend. It was a really bad breakup, too. But, anyways, they made their first feature after their YouTube channel. Their first feature got into TIFF. And then from there, it was just to the moon. That's how their Blumhouse feature is getting made right now, which is very cool. It's going to production in March, like just epic. So yes, I think your first film absolutely has the potential to like open a million doors for yourself. There's this other film that I saw at this tiny little film festival. It was tiny, and he won best film, and the film was amazing. I remember after watching it being like, oh my God, that was so good. And then like the next week, I was at this teeny tiny little film festival. The next week he had been signed by UTA. They had already like gotten investors for the feature adaptation of this short film that he had made. So like it can even happen with shorts. Yes, it can happen. One in a million chance. I think what the biggest accomplishment finishing your first feature does is it makes opening those next doors a little easier. And I think that's the point because I think especially when you're starting out or you're, maybe you've been doing it for a while, but you're just getting that first feature out, it legitimizes you, right? Like, well, you can do it. You know how to do it. You've done it before. You've learned a lot of things from doing it the first time. People around you start to consider you a filmmaker, and that's really when everything changes. I remember, it's funny, I when I wanted to be a musician, I was playing at this bar every Monday night that just like gave me a time from 7 to 8. So I'd post on Instagram a lot about it. And eventually all of my friends were like, "Oh, well, Frankie's the singer. She can sing this theme song for our friends opening thing, or she could write you a song for this." Everyone, in your circle starting to identify you as that person, like that's where the pathways start opening up.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Paul's a very serious filmmaker. He had this film in a festival. Maybe he could read your script and give you notes. And that's the doors start opening in that way when you finish that first feature. Honestly, when you finish that first short too, I think it applies here.
I think it's, I mean, just what you said, even we talked about how I'm working in Nashville now,
Hmm.
and you're still in LA. But when I first moved out here to Nashville, and just because I'd been, a songwriter all my life, and I started to play out in all those bars and everything, it was pretty quick that I started getting invited. I didn't have to pursue it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I started making friends. And it's like, oh, so and so needs somebody that night. Can you do that night? And even a friend of mine uh even told me as early as like a month or two ago, she's now in charge of doing this show at this certain bar. And she was like, please let me know, I could use you in the round on at that bar. So it happens
Yeah.
pretty quickly when you do something and people start to see you as that thing that just has kind of a snowball effect.
Yeah, absolutely. You never know from the other end like what someone might need and what they're looking for too.
Mhm.
So like we were talking a lot about marketing earlier tonight just in like social media and that aspect, but like uh, kind of owning exactly what you're doing and like sharing it with others, like it does really help cuz your first audience is going to be your friends and family, but they tell other people. They're going to be the ones who are talking about you, and that's how you kind of like grow your network, your reputation, your audience, all of these fun buzzwords. um I feel like this all sounds really easy to say, and I feel like my own self 5 years ago, if I was listening to this, I'd be like, okay, but how? And I have to say that I think when I look back now, uh, there's no recipe, but it has happened. Like very organically over time. I get reached out to all the time now for people who want me to produce their short films because I've made two. I've made two. What do I know hardly anything else than they know. Like, but no, people identify me as that. And now the challenge for me personally is to figure out like, okay, can I produce a feature? Like who's going to bring me in to do that? I also think sometimes the other challenge too there is a lot of times people are asking me to produce their short films and they'll be like, and I have $3,000. And I'm like, well, actually, that's a good amount for a short film, but
Yeah,
you did write this like entire fight scene and
yeah,
you're going to break a bottle over someone's head. Like I just maybe a rewrite.
yeah.
We only have 3 grand. Um, but yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, truthfully, is just sharing your work with other people once you finished it. And that's kind of like why I love what you're doing here. Because I think that's the whole point is hopefully everyone watching is dying to see the film by the time by the time we're through, right? They're
Right.
going to be.
And kind of just bouncing off everything you said, just when people see you as that thing, it's like if you I believe all of us are already that thing. I mean, just because you're the, physical production coordinator doesn't mean that you aren't still a musician. and
Yeah.
that you aren't still, if you enjoy acting, you're not still an act. So all of us are the thing that we want to be. What we're really looking for is to be paid for it or recognized for it. Um,
Right.
and you don't have to have that to call yourself that thing and to be that
Hmm.
thing. And that's what I think one of the most powerful things I've seen of social media is that, yeah, there's the influencers who are kind of fake and stuff. But if you are just honest with who you are, people will relate to that because they feel the same way. They just want to hang out for a while with other filmmakers or other musicians online or other artists
Yeah.
online, whatever it is. That's the power of social media and to
Hmm.
really connect people on that level.
Yeah. Yeah. Even the influencers that are, faking it to an extent, they're not because they're choosing to identify with that thing. Whether
Right.
it's, you know, I'm a fitness influencer. Okay, well, I know if I go to your page, I'm gonna get workout videos, and I really want those and need those. So I'm gonna come to your page. I know exactly what I'm going to get, what to expect. I mean, it's identity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think it works in that same way with Paul Navarro is a great filmmaker, and he's also a great musician, and he's also a great father. I mean, I don't know, but I'm
I
assuming.
am. I
Yeah, I'm sure you are because you made me believe that. I'm sure you're a great dad. I would. I am. I'm
am.
sure you are. Based on the
So,
pictures.
so kind of on that vein, I did a lot of things. You're talking about $3,000 for a short film. You're breaking a bottle over somebody's head. Maybe don't do that. Maybe rewrite that. I
Yeah.
made the quintessential mistake every filmmaker does, and I promised myself I wouldn't do it. I overextended myself on what I was filming.
Okay.
So when I wrote this script, I started off with a great idea because because I was going to do it nothing but captured footage, and I was going to have all of these people in different places like get together with your acting friend, and this is the scene I want you guys to play out. And
Oh.
the whole movie's about this deadly online game. So
Hmm.
it was like the people, the way everybody gets to see the game in the world of zero sum game is they're watching people's captured footage. And I was going to
Okay.
do the entire film like that.
Oh my God,
Dumb
what a
me.
challenge. Yeah.
Stupid me.
Well,
I should
I
have
wouldn't say that's like so dumb. I can see the vision and how
No, no,
cool that
no.
could be to pull
Yeah,
off.
I think I should have stuck to that. And I
Mm.
didn't. I got it in my head at one point. Oh, I would really love this angle. I would really love to
Uh,
control the lens on this
oh,
shot. And so I wrote it to have, an actual me as a cameraman and actually capturing all the footage.
okay.
And then we went into, oh, I can't legally fly a drone. We'll just throw that in post. We'll throw the
Oh
drone
no.
out. Oh, they're constantly talking on their phones, so now I've got a bunch of screen replacements. Um, so that
Oh.
is a mistake that I would not make again. In fact, I just wrote a rough script that is nothing but one guy in a house and no visual effects. Um, but I learned my lesson making that first film. But now we've got to finish it. So, what do you think when somebody is in this position? That they have a completed film. It's all shot, it's edited, but it still needs visual effects. It still needs sound design. It still needs music. And we estimated it's going to take about 80 grand to finish the film with all
Yeah.
of that stuff.
Yeah, that's a
So,
lot.
yeah, that's a lot. It's not coming out of my pocket anytime
Yeah,
soon.
it simply
So,
can't.
right. So, what do you think are some of those pathways? What would you look for or advise other people to look for when they're in that situation and finishing a film?
Ooh, that's a hard question.
Yeah, that is.
Um,
That's the question I've
there's
been trying to answer. It's a really hard question.
yeah, I think there's two things. Well, actually, I kind of think the options are endless. I think sometimes it's about looking at the result and if that option, what that result, what am I trying to say? If you take this path and the result ends up being this, will you be happy with it? And I think that's like the first and biggest things with first time filmmakers is like even God, back to this film where the hard drive crashed. Me and the director had like a big back and forth because he did not have the budget to shoot for 3 days, and we had 18 grand for this film, so that was like a good amount of money, but not for 3 days. The way that we were working, so we went really back and forth because he wanted the opening shot to be this like steady cam, like oneer all the way through this, what was essentially a big house party. And I was like, you would need at least 80 extras. We can't feed the extras. Where are we getting the extras? We can't pay the extras. And like a oneer, that's your whole day. Like we can't, like the whole day is this one shot going through this house instead of maybe getting some B-roll of the party scene or being able to have a small scene take place in the party or whatever. Like this, with this one shot of the party, and that's it. You never see the party again. Everything is all close-ups and that. So I think the answer to your question, or at least my opinion on your question, is there's a couple of things. Like one, sometimes you kind of have to like make the mistakes and learn from them, which I do feel like is part of what you're experiencing right now. The second thing is to kind of be able to kill your darlings when you do know better. When you know better that you don't have the time or the budget or the amount of friends that'll pull this favor for you, then you have to change something in your script so it is achievable, whatever that might be. And that can be really hard for filmmakers. And that is where it's like, you've got to take off your director hat, put your producer hat on and say, this just isn't realistic. I can't afford to do this or execute it properly. Now, that's like my first piece of advice for all of this. But the second thing to kind of get back to Paul, what we were talking about is I'm in this situation. What do I do now? I think there are a few things that you could do. The first thing I would do is look to students, look to people who have the time and are willing to put in the energy because this opportunity meets a goal in their life. So when we're talking about VFX, I'm sure there are hundreds of VFX students out there that would die to be able to say that they did VFX for a feature. And they're 19 years old, they're out there, they're at SCAD or they're at AFI or whatever. How do we find these students though?
I can't believe you
right?
mentioned SCAD.
I love SCAD. If you went to SCAD, you made the best choice in your whole life. You lucky duck. You want to know why SCAD is so it's so not like bougie. It's not like NYU or USC. Like it's not about the name. It's for the artists, and they just have such a great filmmaking program. But I would start there. I would even Paul, currently you have access to a lot of young assistants because you work at a talent agency that are all fresh out of college. They're all fresh out of film school. They probably have friends who work in VFX that would do it for very cheap.
Idea. That's a great idea.
That is probably the first thing you should do. Wow. And I could probably send a couple emails for you tomorrow now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Because I definitely know a few people. Either they'll work for very cheap or for free. Now, here's the thing. You have to be okay with that VFX maybe not being what you saw in your head. Maybe not being that like first version of it. Because now we're here and we're like, we want to finish it. We want to get it done. Maybe there's someone listening to this who is an amazing untapped talent that just hasn't been given the opportunity yet. So I think when you have the project, but you don't have the money, the first place to look is students, interns, young filmmakers, anyone who's has a common goal as you. And that's kind of even what we were talking about in the beginning. Like it sucks to be on a set where there's someone on set who doesn't share that common goal.
Yeah.
and you can feel it. You're like, oh my God. Like, so that would be like that to me is like the
That's a
first
great idea. That's a
first
fantastic
thing to do.
idea.
You haven't
Yeah.
done that yet? Just reached out to
I
students?
I reached out to one school. Um, there was just basically it was going to take a long, long time because I was going
Okay.
through the professor and he said, Um, with these shots, I could have some students do it, or you could pay a minimal fee to have some students do it. But we're talking about, them doing it aside of all the other stuff. So this thing might take a long, long time.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's where we kind of left that.
Okay.
Um, but
I mean,
I
it's a good
think
idea though.
yeah, I think that's a great idea. I haven't reached out to other schools. It was also a local school. I haven't kind of broadened my net as far as that's concerned.
I wonder because I do you know at all?
Mm-mm, no.
He he was I can't say that I can talk about, but he was our favorite agent, or the agent we have in common. He's our favorite agent's assistant right after me.
Oh, okay.
Um, and left actually is like such a success story. And I will tell his story really quickly. Was an assistant. He was on the desk. 6 months passed. He pulled me aside. Said, Frankie, can I talk to you? I hate this job. Like, I don't know. This job is not for me. I don't know what to do. But I don't have anything else lined up. And I was like, I think you've learned if you don't want to be an agent, I think you've learned everything that there is to learn at a talent agency at that level.
Mhm.
Because they always give you that advice, like go work at an agency for a year. And it's great advice. I think everyone should work at an agency for a year.
Yeah.
I think it's very helpful.
It's amazing to see like
It,
how all of the
it,
business stuff works. Yeah.
it teaches you that this is a
Yeah.
machine, tight machine.
Yeah.
And the most valuable thing you can have is relationships. But did take my advice. And I actually had dinner with him last week for the first time since he left the agency. And he said that him and his mom talk about the conversation that he and I had that day all nearly every day because it essentially changed his life. What he did
So
was he
you're
quit.
changing lives just left and right.
That's me, connoisseur. Um, he quit his job and just decided to pursue filmmaking full time, which is a crazy risk. Like, it's not something that I would necessarily do because I'm way more about calculated risks. So it was like a
Yeah.
crazy risk on his
Yeah,
part. But
it's
he
not a risk I'm
also,
willing to take either.
yeah, I mean, and it doesn't work for everyone. He was
Yeah.
23. Um, it's it, I wish I had done it. I'm sure you wish you had done it at 23. If you're 23 out here listening to this and you have want to do this, I say do it. Because here's the thing too, is like he quit. He had like 15 scripts that he had written that he was shopping around. And he had a friend at CAA who was an assistant, and the boss was out that week, and the assistant just started calling around pretending to be his boss. Ended up getting him a manager. Amazing, right? Amazing. But this is also like this story. I actually like don't necessarily recommend this for everyone because for the cards fell like beautifully in place. I don't want to say got lucky because it's not that. He exhausted every avenue that he had and pretty much said failure isn't an option here. So I'm going to wrap this up. He gets a manager through this assistant just calling around. The manager loves his scripts. Sets him up with this a meeting with this big director that he loves. This big director, kind of like you. And the director was like, I guess the meeting was just left him feeling so sad and like there's just no reason to even be in this industry anymore. And with his 15 scripts, went home, wrote another script that he just said it like spewed out of him, took him like 4 days to write. And it was just the most honest, like took the commercial value out of it, took this and that. It's a very honest script, but he did find a through line with mental health. It's about a school shooter who, is really suffering from mental health. Ended up calling a bunch of different mental health institutions, and one of them did fund the film. And then what he did, and this is amazing, is he called up SCAD, which is his alma mater, and he says, I have $200,000 from this massive mental health institution in Boulder, Colorado, and this feature film that I want to shoot. Can I shoot it at SCAD? And can I have students help me with it? And so he is hiring a head of department for each different crew position, and they can have as many assistants as they want as long as they're SCAD students. So that's how he's making a $200,000 film for like $1 million.
Wow.
But that is such a good example of what resources do I have? How do I engage them? How do I find people who have a common goal? Like across the board. Like this mental health institute has a common goal with in his script, which is talking about mental health in forms that will reach kids that might be suffering in the same way, right? And then he's also has this crew that's put together by people who all have a common goal, which is to learn, to like make something new. So yeah, like let's start with some. By the way, I feel like we should email because might know someone who can do VFX for you.
Yeah, yeah.
We should have thought of this way sooner.
You see, this is already doing what I hoped it would do, was open up a conversation for me, because I feel like I wasn't having enough conversations about this film with everybody I know. And when I started to think about this channel and I started to kind of make a list of all the people I know that I could interview about this channel, I was like, I know so many freaking people in this industry.
Yeah.
Like, why am I not talking at length with all of them about what I'm trying to do? And
it's a really good idea.
Yeah, and it's kind of my own, I mean, it's my own mental block. It's my own mental block because, like many filmmakers, I'm thinking about making a film. I don't have enough of a producer mindset to think, oh, these are all the ways you make all of those pieces come together.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm trying to put on more of my producer hat.
Kind of funny when we were talking about the director earlier, when you were like, and I squeamishly like worked up the courage to ask him to lunch. And I was like, he said yes, because they all say yes. Everyone says yes. Like it's very rare. Yes, you'll meet those people who are just assholes and like don't want to give you the time for a simple conversation, or when you're driving to get advice from your favorite, filmmaker in the world and he shuts you down. Like, yes, there's going to be those people, but it's worth asking for the favors and taking the shots in the dark, because more often than not, people are going to say yes and they're going to want to be involved and help, because naturally humans thrive in community. And that's, I would love to help you because I plan on asking you for help as well. And it'll be a lot easier to ask you for help if I've helped you.
But it's also not, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's a quid pro quo either.
That as well.
It's more like just, it feels good to help somebody.
It's true.
It just feels good to like.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make it so quid pro
quo.
No.
I didn't take it that way at all. But I mean, I work in an agency, and therefore I have been asked by a lot of actors, especially who want to move out to LA, to, go have coffee or go have lunch or whatever. And I always say yes, because I want to be honest about what I've seen, out there. And I want people to have realistic expectations about what goes on in Hollywood. And it's not that, there are definitely assholes in Hollywood, but it's not a cabal of evil people trying to keep you out,
Exact opposite. I mean, there's a thing that we have to do in my job specifically, where like all day, anytime a new project is announced, you have to reach out to an assistant across any of this, whatever studio the project is with or whatever production company, and ask which executive's covering it. And at first I thought it was the craziest thing we could ever do. I was like, we're just gonna like email, we're just gonna bother people and ask them to tell us who's covering. But they all reply like this. And then what's even crazier is they reply and they say, do you want to go get drinks sometime? And you have to say yes. You have to. You have to say yes to everyone. Always. And you want to be the person that people want to meet. People want to like ask for help. Like that's a good thing when we go back to kind of talking about how important our reputation is and our audiences are. Like that all bleeds together. Like the it's such a small industry, it really is. And helping others gets back to other people that you're a really good person. You're willing to help. It gives other people the opportunity to get to know you. Um, you know,
So, I've had you on for so long. I really appreciate just all the
all
time
good.
that
I've
you're
had
giving
fun
to this.
tonight.
I'm going to kind of wrap this up by asking you what kind of gives you hope about independent film? What have you seen? What strides, especially in this day and age with social media and so many streamers and everything, what gives you hope for independent film?
God, I feel like that's actually a really easy question. I have a lot of
Oh,
hope.
wait, hold on. Let me ask a harder one.
Yeah. I have a lot of hope for independent filmmaking because I think it is the most like honest and necessary filmmaking that we have right now. Um, it feels like anything that's coming out of the commercial world is a sequel or a reboot or a remake. And they like to use all three of those words and they all mean the same thing. It's just recycled art.
Mhm.
Um, there are, some great sequels and prequels and reboots out there. I mean, God, I loved, I loved, and just like that, which is Sex and the City reboot, is amazing. I love it, and people also will tell you it's absolute garbage. Not me, but I do think the
Okay, well,
films that
we all have our flavor of garbage that we love
yeah,
to watch.
yes, bravo, bravo. um, I do think the films that you're seeing be celebrated, whether it's in the Oscars, or even at film festivals, they tend to be of the indie variety. And I think you're also seeing. I just think some of the greatest movies are independent film, and I do believe in the renaissance of independent filmmaking. Um, I think we're at a place where the studios don't actually have the formula that they used to have. I think back in the day, there was like a big formula. It was like you get this one piece of talent, it, you have this writer, this director, like you've got a great film. Same with on the TV side of things. Like, okay, it's 23 minutes. We put a commercial break at 7 minutes and we put a commercial break at 15 minutes. And you've got a TV episode. Like there were all these formulas that they were really living by. And an indie creation kind of came in and made people realize that there are movies like The Florida Project, or God, let me think of another indie film. It was so not good.
I get it. I get where you're going.
That like they actually like reach other audiences and genres, and it's not this one big commercial blow up. I also think too, unless we're talking about like Zootopia 2 or Inside Out 2, most of those commercial films aren't performing in the box office in the same way that some of these indie films that get lots of hype, end up finding their way all the way to the Oscars. And
Mm.
I think a lot of that simply has to do with like the studios don't have the formula that they used to have. They don't quite know what their audience is like. And I think, you're seeing a lot more acquisitions because of that, of indie films being acquired to be on the streaming sites, right? And that's best case scenario. That's actually what we do want, right? Because I think it is way more valuable and powerful for an artist to have much more control over their work throughout the entire process and then sell it to the studio at the end than the opposite, which is I wrote this script, but I'm going to sell it to the studio who's going to do 10 rewrites, bring in another writer, attach this talent that is not the right fit for this thing, but I don't want to slander any actors or actresses, but they're the person who's going to sell it, even though Brad Pitt is not the right person to play this role or whatever it might be. So that's where I think indie filmmaking is getting it right. And I do believe there are people out there who see that. I think A24 is a great example of a studio that really appreciates the indie filmmaker and kind of honors that process. And that's why you're seeing so much success out of A24, is because they put the power back in the creative's hands. I mean, A24 is still a studio through and through. I'm sure that there are filmmakers who have been completely taken advantage by them. But they kind of get the assignment there. Right. So yes, I do believe in indie film. I actually think indie film is our only hope. I'm serious.
I totally agree with you. And I think that because these big conglomerates keep buying each other, and they don't know how to operate without a formula, because that's what big companies are all about. They're about formulas and learning how to make a hamburger the same way over and over and over again. But the audience is fractured. I mean, there are so many freaking eyeballs on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. And those eyeballs used to go to the movies. Those eyeballs used to watch TV, and they're not anymore. And the big corporations don't have touch with all of those fractured audiences. So yeah, independent film is the thing that can speak to those audiences when a filmmaker is being honest about what they're making.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think kind of the last and most important thing too is back in the day with filmmaking, and especially like the big films and stuff, like they were so 4-quadrant, like they were for parents to bring their kids and their grandparents too, right? Like everyone can watch the same movie and enjoy it because it was much harder to make movies. Now it's easier. They're way more accessible. I mean, it's still hard, but there's more ideas, there's more stuff to make. And I personally, to me, I'm like, you guys have this great platform. People aren't going to the theaters. Yes, I don't want the theaters to die. I really, of course, want them to stay alive. But there's also a world where, okay, we're going to put $200 million into the live action version of Tangled. Or we could make $10 million films and probably attract more audience in total by hitting on those different ideas and worlds than what Tangled, the live action version, is going to be. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I'm sure you'll go watch it with your daughter, and I'm sure the production quality will be outstanding, But at the same time, there's a lot of great ideas out there and a lot of different ways to connect with audiences. And I do think the studios are eventually going to catch on to that, we can make $10 million films for the price of this one Tangled.
By the time they catch on to it, the world
there won't be any filmmakers in Hollywood. They're going to give that $10 million each to a bunch of robots. That's it. But there is hope. I really think there's hope. I also think the budgets are just getting too big, and eventually they're going to realize that it's too hard to turn a profit when the budget is that large.
Yeah. Frankie, can we check in with you in a few months and get your opinion on where we are there?
Yeah, of course, please do. And I want to check in with you tomorrow because I'm connecting with a bunch of students lately because I say yes to everyone.
Absolutely.
So
yes.
My students might know students who can help with your film. So let's figure it out.
That's awesome. Anything you want people to know that you're working on?
Ooh,
You told me you were writing something new.
yeah. Well, I wrapped my short film Princess Party PI, which I think you watched it, right? With
Yeah,
all the kids
yeah,
in it.
that was a lot of fun.
Oh, so fun. So fun. We're just finishing the feature script now.
Uh-huh.
So we're gonna start emailing that around with the screener.
Oh,
So
right
with
on.
the short film as a proof of concept. On top of that, we have another feature that we've been working on for the last couple years, and we just became really good friends with this casting director who's going to work for free for us because she's doing a favor and she likes us. So we're gonna try the attaching talent approach and see how that goes.
That's
So
awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome. Right on, Frankie. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Appreciate all your time.
thanks. Thanks, Paul. I can't wait to keep up with all of it.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.